Hello everyone, in this video I wanted to show you some very bad results from some DDR5 kits from Patriot is the brand, Viper. So I already covered this in a previous video where I had this dual 32GB kit, so 64GB in total, that wouldn't perform at 6400 as advertised. So let's start by looking at this system where I have this B760M motherboard. It is currently running memory at 3200 megahertz, which means that it's 6400 mega transfers. Okay, so 3191. And so cl32, 36, 39, 39, and yeah, this is 12600 kf. Now let's just shut down the system. I run all the tests, all my suite of tests for memory, which is test mem5 with the ANTA 777 config, 3 lines of limpac, that's enough. And I can also run Ycruncher. Let's run a fast one, P1B. Ycruncher is the hardest one on the memory controller, but of course it also takes into account the memory. And this is my go-to testing suite. I run all my systems with all the tests and more. So I will also run some PC Mark stuff, 3D Mark stuff, and as well as of course Cinebench, but it's super light, and Geekbench 6, and a bunch of tools that I have to validate performance and of course stability of the system. We will now shut down the system and install this 64GB kit. I currently have a 96GB installed, so this is a dual rank kit. It is very dense, which means that it has a lot of chips on the modules, which means these modules get very hot, but they can do it. I mean, they pass all the tests. And I will now put in those Viper. So just again, the memory, the 96GB kit, I went through like 8 to 9 hours of continuous runtime, because it's more than 6 hours for TM5, and Ycrunchers were done before. So it really withstood everything. I have to say that it's winter now, so outside temperature is not hot, of course, and my lab it's not super hot, but I mean, they worked pretty well with the XMP, and I can easily tune them for lower voltages and like slightly higher latencies to make sure that they are perfectly stable. I'm now booting the system, so I installed the memory. I booted the system. It will take a little bit because it's training the memory. I will load everything like default settings and run some tests on this Viper kit and show you how it works, and then I will run all of those kits through the testing. So what happened is that sadly I bought those from a retailer that is not Amazon, so return policies are very hard to get through, and you have to provide proof. And I also had this before where you have a defective memory kit, you send them back and they say, oh, it's working fine here, and they just boot it and they send it back to you and it's faulty again, and then you get back to them, and in the meanwhile it was a DDR4 kit, and it took me 9 months to get my money back. Oh, I mean, sadly, I got the memory kit back from the reseller, and in those 9 months the memory kit was worth like 50% less, because now DDR4 is obsolete and we're into DDR5. So let's go to load profile, load optimize defaults. So this will return the BIOS to settings, stock settings, and just load XMP. which here it is, XMP1. I also have those 2 and 3, which is a, yeah, these are interesting, but I want to see XMP1. I bought this memory for 6,400 mega transfers, and I want all of them. I will clean a little bit on the monitor in the meanwhile. I'm not expecting you to watch the whole video because this is just for warranty purpose. So I'm just showing everything to see that there's no cut, but you don't have to go through all of this. The conclusion is that all of these memory kits fail in a couple of seconds with the first test I ran, which is Ycruncher, because it's the fastest one. And also Ycruncher is the one that stresses the most on the CPU and doesn't stress that much on the memory because it's very fast, and it shouldn't even like put that much of a load on the memory kits because it's a very small test compared to TM5 that fills all the memory and overheat the memory a lot. So the very fact that it's taking so long for the kit to boot, it's already weird. It usually doesn't take that much to train for a new kit of memory, and that is already telling that something is wrong. Remember that those kits were, like the memory were 96 gigabytes. So these are 96 gigabyte of DDR5, and this passed the tests with normal results. So it's not about density, it's not about the speed, not about the CPU doesn't take the speed, because the CPU is perfectly able to handle 6400, the memory, and the I guess the binning is the only problem here. So let's go to run Ycruncher. Now let's do 5B, it's a little bit harder, and let's watch the values for everything. So 32, again it's the same clock as before, 3192, gear mode 2, command rate 2, everything is default, and it's already crashed. Again, it's like a couple of seconds. Like if it fails so early in the test, this kit is not stable by any stretch of imagination. I couldn't sell this to anyone and expect it to be satisfied with the results. I mean, this is gonna probably blue screen 10 minutes into usage. So this kit is not stable, definitely not stable. So I'm now gonna swap it for another couple of those and see what happens with the second one. Here we go. I will try to keep them together. They have a serial number on them, so I can always like get them back together, but let's just film it. So I'm gonna, just in case, take out the plug from the system. That is actually not needed, but safe to do all the time. So it's better to do it. I hate the pinout on those. I mean, why should they put it in the middle to make everything harder to tell which side is the right side? But I guess they had some electrical reasons to do that. Okay, so stick 1 is in, stick 2 is in. Let's plug it back. Everything is fine. Let's turn the system on, double check everything is perfectly fit. So I shouldn't go through resetting the BIOS again, but I will do it nevertheless. So let's get back to this fan here. I mean, it's not like the system is overheating at all, because the cooler is a very large one and the test like crash after a couple of seconds. So really not about heat, but I'll show you the temperatures while running the tests. So I really shouldn't do that. Like, I shouldn't go to the BIOS and reset everything, but I will do it. And this is the sad state of the industry right now. It's so full of stuff that it's shipped unstable, and the big noise was made by the Intel CPUs. They were actually shipped stable, but they degraded very fast. So, I mean, that's a little bit different from this. So those ship from the factory were, I guess, almost all of them were stable at from the factory, and then degraded very fast because of the higher voltages that were required, because Intel just wanted to get every little inch of performance and didn't care about long-term stability. But this is the worst. Again, I've had issues with the 96 gigabyte kits in the past, like this one, because the very high density and the fact that you usually run those in a system where you also have a GPU, and when the GPU is loaded, it puts a lot of heat in the system, so they actually overheat. But again, they pass all the tests when they're running alone, at least. But those kits, they fail spectacularly as soon as you launch any test. So again, everything is XMP, XMP1, and the temperatures are perfectly good. It's 66, 62 degrees on the CPU, and that's really totally acceptable. And here we are, coefficient is too large, so the test failed. And we'll go through the last kit that I have here, and none of this kit passed even at 6200. I need to run them at 6000 to get them stable. That's the only way to run also 6000 at cl36, not 6000 cl32. So I cannot run them at 6400 cl36. So there's no timing that makes them stable at 6400. So I have no idea what the hell the guys at Patriot were thinking, because I bought the first one. I had to deliver the system to the client, and I had again some issues with the memory kits becoming too hot. So I fully expect to do a little bit of tuning to lower the voltages and provide a good cooling to the system, to the memory, in order to stabilize them. But I do not expect them to fail straight away in the first 10 seconds of a test. And this shouldn't, those kits should be tested from the factory. And I don't care if they test, they shouldn't test it at minus 10 degrees. They should have the decency to test them at 20 degrees, which is a normal human temperature. But it's probably 15 degrees here. I'm wearing a pile. I'm dressed up in my lab, so it is very cold in here, and there are plenty of fans in the system. There is no GPU, there is no heat accumulated there. It's just that those kits are trash. And so I bought the first one. I had to deliver the machine to the client. The client was not happy. I do not have Amazon anymore. I just would love not to have Amazon, but the industry is forcing me to. As I already told you in the beginning, since I didn't buy this from Amazon, I had to buy them from another reseller, and this reseller has a very long RMA process. I decided to just buy another 2 kits and hope that I find one that is stable, because I never thought that they would make all of them with a broken XMP and with very, very awful chips. But apparently that's what they do. They're selling them and they're all defective. So let's do this again for the last time. And so I have to return all of those, and I had to buy a 96 gigabyte kit from Amazon to fill it, because every other kit under 300 euros was rated for the same 6400 cl32. I mean, all the other kits that were above 6,000. And so I didn't want to risk, even if they were made by other brands. I don't know what kind of chips are supposed to work at those frequencies and latency. I mean, I know for sure that the chips in this 96 gigs kits are doing this, at least for Ycruncher. I wouldn't trust them to do cl32 at 1.4 volt for a long run, so I don't run those timings, but at least they do run them with a very quick last. What else? I've had a lot of issues with GPUs lately, all kind of GPUs, but I'm mostly by Radeon, and I had a 7800 XT that would artifacting after maybe 5 minutes of load, and then stop doing that. Like, it would artifact at the beginning of the game, throw some random blue or green on the screen, here it is, and then proceed to work fine for the next 3 hours of gaming. So I didn't send it back, at least now. So I didn't want to bother doing that. I had a 7900 XTX that stopped working after 9 months, and I sent it back to the reseller, and they stole it because the reseller was located in Naples, and they stole the package on the way back with a broken GPU, and that cost me 1,000 euros. So yeah, the industry is very, very bad at the moment. And again, I'm not even talking about the Intel CPUs that are dying after 6 months of use. And that is all for the video. So I guess Patriot is on my blacklist now for memory. That's sad, but that's the sad truth for now. Ciao.